exciting night because we checked our freezer and the freezer's almost empty.
All we had left was grouse.
That's
Actually,
right.
we still had a little bit of bear left, but that went quick too.
You know that it's hunting season when you check that frozen crate and you start to see the bottom of it. So this is going to be a little bit of fun. Grouse is one of those things that when you get skunked like we did, there was no black bear last fall, it kind of takes the pain away. A little bit of trout fishing, a little bit of grouse hunting, but we want to make an elegant dish here.
They're an awesome animal to hunt too. Their camouflage is amazing, but
Beautiful.
probably some of the best I've ever seen in terms of natural camouflage, which makes these a pleasure to hunt.
And you know, one of the things that's always said about grouse is that they're not very bright, okay? Now, so they'll stand and look at you and kind of give like a, you know, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna shoot it. But by the same token, when we went deeper into the far north, I remember this big, it was a big heifer, beautiful one, and I'm looking for him, and I'm looking around, and I swear I saw him, and I look up, and he's right above me. So listen, what we're gonna do, we've got some great techniques. Like all Surefire Wednesdays, we're focused on techniques. One of the things I'm going to teach you tonight is how to make a perfect wild mushroom risotto. So it won't be long, and it'll be time, you know, if you're still foraging in different parts of the nation where you can find mushrooms, we're going to do a risotto. And then what I did, we had the presence of mind to leave some of the bird together. So we got one where we've plucked the bird completely clean, left the feet on, we've got some of the wings on, and then we've got some, we're just talking about grouse here.
Okay. Well, that barbecue's fired up with that hardwood charcoal. It's ready to go.
Nice. So that gives our segue to, we're going to smoke the grouse. Now, we're going to take it off the bone. It's going to be a quick application, quick cooking. And so we're going to be talking about wine a little bit.
Yeah, we typically do a nice mixed drink or something like that. But tonight we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to touch on some red wines and some white wines. And the reason that we're pairing them with this dish, you know, we got some nice Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Pinot Grigio, and we're going to explain to you different types of glasses. We got some red wine Bordeaux glasses, stemless, stem on. So we're going to really touch on all the basics of wine appreciation.
Absolutely.
And then I have an awesome recipe for you guys today for when you're getting up early during hunting season, you're tired. I got a chocolate caramel protein iced latte. So
Wow.
For those early mornings where, you know, you just had a hunt. This also from Mountain Ops is full of BCAAs, so if you just did a workout or tired from a long hike, it gets that recovery, but also gets you that early morning boost.
Now let's introduce them. If you don't know grouse, this is ruffed grouse. So let's get up close and personal on this bird. If you're going to pluck the grouse, you have to do it right away. You got to do it fresh.
If you wait a while, it doesn't really like to pluck, but also it takes out the skin as well.
You'll lose all the skin.
Lose
So
everything.
the whole point of plucking is to have that very delicate skin. Interestingly enough, we plucked rock doves and there was no problem. You pluck these, the skin is very delicate, very light. So if you're going to pluck them, it's going to have to be gentle. It's going to have to be just a few feathers at a time. Now, the way that we were successful is so I kept this breast on. So this is evidence to you of how.
And you know what? Show them the hole too. You got the hole.
Okay,
here
yeah.
we shot 'em.
22. So the 22 did a brilliant job. And you can see there, so these were frozen. You know, you can store these for about a year. I don't recommend more than a year. So we're coming up on the anniversary of this hunt.
They store perfectly.
They do.
In the
So
freezer.
literally what we did is we laid this bird down. So imagine laying it down on the ground just like this.
Full
and
bird.
Full bird,
Like this.
full bird. So you can kind of imagine here's the legs, and I kept this one so I could kind of demonstrate. So you take your boot and you press it gently here and here, and then you grab the legs and you just gently pull up, and as you do, literally, this is what you're left with.
Everything that was everything from the head, the neck, the insides, the intestine, everything is pulled out in one clean swoop, and it's all connected. So you can just toss that away, and what you're left with is your breasts of your grouse.
So you can see this one has some really beautiful fat there. And one of the things that I want to show you, so we did leave this one whole, so we could kind of tie it up and roast it.
Look inside there. Look at the ribs and everything.
It's
really
it's
cool.
absolutely beautiful. So I just want to show you a quick technique. This is not going to be any different than working with a chicken. And one of the things I think you'll probably appreciate as we go through this is just how big the breast is from the grouse. And these are the tenderloins. Now the tenderloins are attached just underneath, and so they come off pretty easily. And I'm going to show you a couple really great techniques here. So the first thing you want to do, that's the breastbone. And all you want to do is just gently use a good sharp knife and just follow that down one side or the other. So once you get down to that breastbone, you don't need to slice. What you can do is literally, see the way that just pushes off there?
Presses away. Yeah.
If you press it, then you literally, I mean, look at that. That breastbone, that's transparent. So you're literally wasting nothing. And what you're going to come into just up here is that's the wishbone. So you fight over that at Thanksgiving. So that's a small wishbone. That's for little wishes.
At camp, you're all wishing for the same thing, though.
That's right.
That's it.
That's absolutely
it doesn't
right.
matter. You break it, and it's like, okay,
Do you know what?
either
Okay.
way, we're getting the moose.
You know what? I'm going to keep this wishbone. We're taking that. We're going to use it up there. We'll use it for, instead of rock, paper, scissors, we'll use the wishbone to determine who takes the first one. So first of all, I want to show you how clean that comes off using that technique. Just completely no waste at all. And this is that tenderloin. Now I'll show you why I want to take that out. I want to take that out and just gently pull that off. So I'll set that aside. That's ready to go and be smoked. And what you'll see is there's a tendon that runs right up inside there. And all you have to do, I literally use my nail and I press that against the board. Now watch this. Gently press. Look at that. Completely out. Now that will not break down. That's that sinew.
So simple, eh?
Oh, well, it's great for, I'll tell you, it's great for making boots, but not great for eating. Okay, so let's do it one more time. So all I did, there's that breastbone. I just follow it down one side and then just pressing gently. Now, you can be, obviously, when we're at camp, let's have a quick look. When we're at camp, we're not being as fussy. No. But let's face it, when you get this home, you brought it all the way in.
Spent a lot of time getting it.
Spent a lot of time, and we want to respect the product. And let's face it, when we get it out to the smoker, the better we take care of it here, and the fewer cuts, the better condition it's going to be out there.
It's going to result in a much better end result, right? Like,
absolutely. So again, and here's that bone. You can literally see it, the wishbone. Just literally pressing it off, and underneath, don't even need a knife. Honestly, this flesh, it's like butter.
So tender.
It's like butter. So just pressing that off. Now, you know, I understand, you know, we don't like fussing too much about talking about GMOs and you know, like, not all things are evil here. But I'll tell you one thing. This bird lived a fine life, and then it was lights out for him in about 30 seconds. If you watch the video before we started, you'll see that was me hunting one of these birds. And we were using the 22 LR. Very accurate, and with that vortex scope, I'm telling you, man, it was easy, easy, easy. So, one more time so you can see there. That's what's left of that beautiful bird.
Look at that, eh?
Just literally, it's transparent, Dakota. Yep. And you can see right through that.
Now it can just go to the dogs.
Now it can go to the dogs. Now, if you're doing chicken or turkey, this exists in all those. So the tenderloin is kind of the least used muscle. That's why it has, you'll see there's absolutely no fat on it. It's very tender, and the reason it's tender is it has absolutely no use. I think it's just cushion. It's tasty cushion. It's tasty cushion. So again, I literally, I just use my nail.
It's so cool.
Nice and tight. Just use that, and then you can use the back of the knife or this. Make sure not to cut through it. If you want to make sure, just use the back of the knife, press, and then that comes out just like that. We'll tuck and set that aside. So this is the prep. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to have a couple different applications. With the breast, the full breast, they're going to go out to the smoker. Now we started the smoker about an hour in advance.
Yeah, you want to get that charcoal going really far in advance so that when you go out there, we're going to do something called a quick smoke. So typically you would soak up your chips and let them soak, get them wet, and then you create a long smoke smoking between an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Or we're going to do a quick smoke. So you see, we're going to go out there, dry chips, we're going to toss them right on the charcoal because these babies, maybe take 10 minutes to cook up.
Maybe, especially because
Yeah.
the thing is, because they're so thin,
Yeah.
we want to get some great caramelization on the outside. In order to do that, we're going to need it to be super hot and then make sure we rest them. The one thing I want to do, like we've been doing all summer long, is I want to give this a quick marinade. The reason I want to do a quick marinade here is I want to get any of that, what we would talk about, again, we always talk about it, that gamey flavor.
Yep.
Want to get that out a little bit. Remember, the most important thing when we're hunting or angling is to get the people in our family and our friends enjoying this food.
Exactly.
The way we do it is make it as palatable as possible.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off, you'll see we're gonna be doing some glazing in a little bit when we go to this rice, and so we're gonna use a Pinot Grigio for that. And the reason we're gonna do that is we're gonna be doing a mushroom risotto. So we don't want that red wine to take over those flavors. This is gonna bring a really nice peachy flavor and finish with a really nice texture at the end. So this California wine, I mean, this is some of the best wine ever. Here in Ontario, we have a VQA certification, but if I can't go Ontario, I definitely go California.
Okay, so what I'm doing with this marinade, I'm just putting a couple pieces of rosemary in there. And then I'm gonna take some lime. Now, because it's a super quick marinade, I'm not just gonna take and put the slices in. I'm gonna zest some in there.
Yeah.
So I got a microplane, and literally I'm literally gonna go right in with that beautiful zest. Now, there's nothing like citrus zest. You'll see how often we use it.
The oils in it are like, I would say, what, 5 times as strong as the juice?
Oh, and just
So much more
zesting it,
powerful.
it smells so incredible. So I want to make sure we get all that. And Code, what I'll do is I'm going to get you to, so just a little trick, just before you use the citrus for juice, I'm going to give it a quick roll there, slice it in half. You can squeeze those in for me. So that's going to be our liquid. Now that high acidity of the citrus is going to give us a little bit of a quality that'll break it down a little bit. Got some garlic here too. And what we'll do is literally just trim off a piece of this garlic. And the thing is, keep in mind that if you're gonna do a quick marinade, you need to think about the fact that you gotta get the flavors going.
Exactly. And this
You don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, I'll show you this, guys, real quick.
I gotta
If
put
you're doing
one more
something,
thing in there.
if you're doing something like this, a really easy way so you don't slop a bunch of stuff over your bag if you're gonna bag something, is just to take it and roll that top inside out. That way, as you're dropping stuff in, if it splashes up on the edge, you're not getting it on that outside. So when you do flip it up, you can close it up and you're not covering that entire outside of the bag.
Especially in the commercial kitchen, we always make sure to do that. It'll keep it's HACCP. It's a critical control point. It makes sure that you're not going to transfer anything that you don't want in there. So I'm just putting some slices in there.
Yep.
You know what we should hang there. Talk a bit about your wines. I'm going to see if I can find some ginger.
Some ginger, okay. Yeah, so we're going to be touching on some other red wines here. You'll see we have a Cabernet Sauvignon and a Merlot here. So two very different wines. If you're a white wine drinker and you're not quite into red wine, a Merlot is a great place to start because it's a very light wine,
It's very
fruity.
palatable. You know
Yep.
what it is? The tannins. So
Yeah.
a little bit about the tannins. So to make a red wine, the wine juice macerates with the skin, and it's based on how much sugar there is.
Yep.
And how long and how bold those tannins are that come from the skin. So you know with a Cabernet Sauvignon, we always talk about big Cabernet Sauvignons.
Get
That's because the tannins that come from the skin
Exactly.
give you a huge punch.
And-
Yes, Cindy.
New York City.
New York City. Welcome, New York City.
And Donald said beer works just fine, Kansas style.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
does.
It does. Beer
Absolutely.
works just fine.
So what we want to do always with Surefire Wednesdays, in anything we teach, we're making sure to make this palatable. So we do beer, we do whiskey, we do bourbon. As a matter of fact, I challenge you to find an alcohol, whether wine, beer, or spirit, that we're not going to use.
Yep.
So a quick peel here. I want to be able to just take this. Now you can do this with a spoon or like I'm doing here, just with a knife. I'm just going to take that skin off the ginger. That ginger. Now, what am I going to get from this ginger? You know,
Oh, you're gonna get some of that nice sweet heat, and it's really nice. It's kind of a mellow heat, but it really gives it a really nice flavor, right?
Yeah, so one of the things we've already got going here in this marinade, so we've got some beautiful fragrance from the rosemary and from the garlic, but we didn't have a heat element.
Yep.
So immediately I'm like, okay, we got to get some heat in there. So let's put this in there, and you know what? Let's open up that white wine.
White wine, okay.
We'll put a little spot of it in
Some
there.
acidity in there.
Yep. So you can see the great thing about cooking with all kinds of really simple, fresh ingredients is that it just takes one or two. So we're talking about some really simple stuff here. It looks beautiful, smells beautiful already. One of the things you're doing now, so we're talking about corks. You know, you'll see one of the wines we have here is a twist top.
Twist top,
That used to be the mark of an El Cheapo wine.
Not anymore.
Not
really.
anymore.
No.
So there's a lot of things, you know, there's a lot of really good wines that are using that. And so don't think that that's a mark of a really cheap wine.
Little trick when you're popping a cork, you're not actually, you know that sound that you hear when you pop it? It's actually not supposed to do that. Come in close here and I'll show you what it's supposed to sound like. When you get it to the top here, what you're supposed to hear is a kiss. So you hear just a...
And that's it.
That's
just
it.
a little bit. So just a little bit of that wine in. Don't need much. And then what I'll do, now notice I'm not putting any salt in here. You might think the seasoning of salt would be a thing to add at this point. I want to avoid using salt because I don't want to start cooking this yet. And the great thing about using a bag like this is that you can get all of the air out. There we go. And I know that all those flavors, they're gonna start to combine. So I'm literally gonna take that. If I was gonna be any more than about 20 minutes, I would take and I would put this back in the refrigerator. Remember, if it's gotta be kept above that or below that 4 degrees, which is
40 degrees Fahrenheit.
40 degrees Fahrenheit, in order for it to be food safe. But because I'm gonna be smoking this, I'm just literally gonna take and set this over here. But what you want is you want a pan that's similar to this. Something that's got some width. And I'll tell you why. When you're building a risotto, you're going to want to add stock in and ladle it in as it's heating. So the first step for me is to get this on, and I want to get the stock going here. So it's important to have a hot stock. So you can use, if you want to keep it totally vegetarian, you can use just a straight vegetable stock. But what I'm going to be using here is I've got some nice chicken stock. So I'm going to throw that on high. I want to bring that up to temperature. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of prep here. So with that in mind,
What can I do? I'm ready to cook.
well, I'll tell you what you can do. So we've got some beautiful mushrooms here. What you can do is just stem these. I'm going to need about 6 of those and stem the others here as well. Okay, so we've got some nice shiitakes. Those are just gorgeous. And now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to need some elbow room here. Yeah. Did I cut you?
No, you
Oh,
did.
good. That was close. Okay, so I'm going to need some elbow room. So let's go over.
See what happens when you get in his way in his kitchen? He starts
stay
throwing
clear.
knives around.
One of the things you want to do, start with a really nice fresh yellow onion. Just trim the top, set that aside, and then trim the root. You want to get rid of that right away. Then you can see that's a root tip. I'm going to take and slice that perfectly in half. That reveals the beautiful petals of the inside of the yellow onion. And then I'm just going to take a few layers off. The fresher the onion, the fewer layers you need to remove.
Sharpen the knife, the less you cry.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so one of the reasons that if you have a really dull knife, what you're doing, imagine the cells inside the onion. What you're doing is you're cutting those with a blunt edge, and rather than slicing through them, you're imagine like breaking a balloon. So you're getting that, it creates like an aerosol that goes right up into your face. Not good. So the next thing is, now this is the root part. I'm just gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna draw, look at that. Just draw back, see the motion? I'm pulling back towards myself, and what that allows me to do is to slice without going through the tip. Notice I'm keeping my fingers tucked back, and that's just for safety. It also allows me to control that. Now have a look at that. That beautiful onion is nicely sliced. Now fanned out, that's right. Now with my hands up like this, I'm gonna make a pass and just slice through all the way back to that root tip, and then watch this. the nice thing about this, especially with risotto, so I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about this grain of rice, and you'll notice that this onion is smaller than the grain of rice.
Yep.
So for risotto, it's really important to use a short grain or arborio rice. So this arborio rice has a high starch content. You might think when making risotto, and if you've never had it, it's the most creamy and rich and delicious. This makes, honestly, it makes beautiful savory dishes, but it makes my family's favorite.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but the best thing to do with this is risotto is my favorite to pair with anything like chicken or grouse, anything that's kind of like that type of meat. This rice tastes amazing with, and doesn't actually take much longer. I know some people have a hard time with rice, but if you just watch this episode closely tonight, take a few notes, write things down, you'll see just how easy it is to make an amazing. Oh, okay, sorry. He needs elbow room.
So again, drawing through from this is the tip, this is a root, making sure not to cut through that root, and then just a quick pass through.
Don't cut yourself.
And then again, that fine dice. This is something that is simple to do. Now, with that done, what I want to start with is I want to start with the mushrooms. So I get over here to the stove, and I can turn that on medium high. And I want to start with some butter. So it's important, especially when you're working with mushrooms, to work with a hot pan. There's so much liquid in them. We want to make sure to get as much of that out. And so we'll press this up here. And I'm going to do this in a couple steps, just because I want to have, the mushrooms, if I cook them and leave them in when I'm doing the risotto, the problem is that they're really going to turn into kind of a mush. And what I want to do is I do want to saute them. I want the flavor, but at the same time, you know what I want? I want to see them, Bay. Yeah. I want to see clearly that cross section of the mushroom. It makes it taste so amazing.
Mushrooms are so beautiful too for presentation. You saw that bird, those breasts that we're marinating right now. And if you have guests over, your freezer's getting low, you pull these birds out, you want to impress your guests, and this is one way to make it absolutely beautiful.
Now, surefire recipe videos are all about using fewer ingredients. I think it's really important to make something simple, to use fewer ingredients, and you know what? You don't have to use expensive ingredients either. Oh, no. It can be inexpensive ingredients, and you can have all kinds of freedom to do whatever you want. So we'll put about a tablespoon in. One of the hallmarks of a really good risotto is good flavor development and timing. So you see now my stock has come up to temperature. I'm just going to turn that down a little bit. I just want it to be warm. And in goes as well
olive oil.
Olive oil. Beautiful, fragrant, late harvest olive oil, nice and peppery. I just love it. Now, mushrooms in. And only the mushrooms.
You want to saute those, get some nice brown color on those, some of those flavors.
So one of the things that you're going to want to do here is you're really going to want to move around a lot. And the key is once you get, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them over, get them kind of coated with the fat, and then I'm going to, smell that? Oh, yeah. And then I'm going to leave them alone. Now, at this point, what I want to do is just a little bit of pepper, tiniest little bit, okay? And salt. So I always use flaked sea salt. I love the texture and the flavor. And this is a good time to season. You want to make sure to season in layers, get everything done. I'm going to keep that temperature on. And one of the things I want to do is, remember, if you've watched any of our broadcasts, this is the time not to rush it, right?
Yep, don't rush
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So here in the kitchen, this is where the love comes. This is where you take your time to love those mushrooms. So you can see right away, and this is really important. What I'm literally doing is, and so I'm just going to turn it over now once. You can see how they're beginning to shrink up in that beautiful color. But what I'm doing here is I'm creating flavor in the bottom of that pan. So when it comes time to put the risotto together, I have beautiful flavor already rolling.
Okay, so what I got here is I actually took the time ahead of time to freeze coffee.
Nice.
So what that does is...
That's espresso, right?
That's espresso, yeah. So if you put a bunch of ice in your drink, it tends to water it down a bit, kind of like when you pour a nice pop and you leave ice in it, it kind of churns the water. I drink pop. Personally, I don't drink coffee. These guys hate it because they go through about 8 of these a morning while I'm sitting there.
We're gonna convert you.
They're trying to convert me, but I got those frozen coffee, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna toss all of this ice in, because what I want this to become is kind of like a slushy almost. And that's gonna be perfect. Then I'm gonna take this coffee. You can make as much coffee as you want. You know, it depends on how many people you're trying to serve here in the morning. You're gonna pour that coffee in over top of the ice cube. Make sure to chill the coffee, otherwise what you're gonna do is you're gonna melt all of your ice cubes, and then it's not gonna turn out the way you want it.
That looks good already.
It looks good already. And most importantly is your protein. It's always, I find personally, it's hard for me to find ways and time to add protein into my diet, especially if you're trying to get fit for hunting season. So this is a great way to add it into your morning coffee. There's also, this stuff's full of BCAAs and stuff like that, so it's great for muscle recovery and also helps wake you up. There's a little bit of caffeine in there as well.
Nice.
So we're gonna I'll do 2 scoops since we got a lot of ice and coffee in
That
here.
sounds good. I could actually use one of these. Bay, I'm just gonna steal your camera here for a second. Let's have a look at this for a moment. I wanna show you when you should be pulling these out. You see all that beautiful color, all that beautiful flavor? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm just gonna remove these mushrooms. They're gonna come back in later, but rather than using 2 different pans, I wanna develop everything in one pan. Let's face it, it's gonna taste better, the cleanup is easier, and I don't wanna miss a single bit of flavor as I'm developing this. So with that out, now I'm gonna put a bit more olive oil in that pan, and then it's gonna be time for my mushrooms to go in. So olive oil in, and I'll just turn that down just a little bit. We'll just keep it on medium heat.
Smoke
And then-
over here.
What's that?
It's smoked the grouse over here. It's got smoke on it.
And then we'll put those that beautiful onion in. Oh man, it smells so good. It just, you know what? Simple cooking from scratch, that's by far the best way. So now I'm just gonna move this around, put that through the pan, and I want to develop a little bit of flavor here as well. And you'll see when I deglaze this pan exactly how much flavor I've developed. A little bit of seasoning, and we'll let that saute for a minute. Okay, Bailey, back to smart food.
So I was gonna add some milk to this, but I only like to add milk as needed because I got a lot of coffee in there. So now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flick this on.
And dairy's good, but honestly, sometimes dairy is...
Dairy is very hard on the stomach, actually. I find if I drink a lot of dairy, that it really kind of upsets your stomach, and it's just not really good, especially early in the morning. If you're going to be active or anything like that, you don't want to throw anything that's going to upset your stomach. I want you to get real close on this coat so that they can see as this blends together. It's going to look amazing. Ready? Now I'm going to add more milk.
Easy, don't wear it.
Not possible. You can see where I get my nickname Sasquatch. I'm gonna break everything.
Okay, Cody, while he's finishing that up, I want to show you. So this is where, at this point, these are beginning to saute. And what I want to do is I want to saute those till they're just translucent. So I want to add some color, but this is the time. If I'm to jump ahead now and to put the rice in, what happens is I get ahead of that process, get ahead of that flavor development process by trying to add something or trying to rush it. If you want to make exceptional food, the key is pacing yourself, taking some time. This risotto should take you about 20 minutes from start to finish, and the key is just give it a little bit of that time. Oh man, look at that. Oh gosh, that's beautiful.
There you go.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Give that a try.
I think it's like adult slushy.
It is adult slushy. I won't drink because I don't drink coffee, but you can enjoy it all you
That's
want.
delicious. So you have espresso, so you've got the caffeine. That's going to give you a kick.
Yep, definitely.
And then that flavor, what's the flavor? That's chocolate caramel.
Chocolate caramel,
I
yeah.
see.
That just adds a little bit of sweetness to it, and it just really wakes you up.
That's delicious. That is a good smart food recipe.
I might try it.
Try it. So,
I can't do
you
it.
can't do it. Okay. So let's go in with some of the rice. Now, I'm going to go with about a cup. When you're talking about arboreal rice, when you compare that to long grain rice, so jasmine rice or any other long rices, you're gonna need a liquid that's about 3 to 1. So I'm gonna start with a couple cups here, and there's no rush to get liquid in. And I'll tell you why. It's an important step to be able to, doesn't that smell fantastic?
Those mushrooms are incredible.
And I'm gonna add just a little bit more oil. So the olive oil is a really important part of this. It gives it great flavor, it makes it luxurious. And let's face it, olive oil is really good for you. This is not high heat cooking, so we're not gonna kill all of its nutritional value. So you see what I'm doing right now? I'm coating all of those grains.
It gives you that beautiful gloss too.
Oh, the sheen is beautiful, and all of that gorgeous rice now it's mixed together with that, with all of the onion. Now, we're going to turn that up, and this is one of the really important things. So we've got that Pinot Grigio that Dakota's got. Now that those are all coated, just turn them over and have a quick look here. Notice that the bottom of the pan is kind of nice and dry. Notice the color of the rice. We're starting to pick up some of that brown flavor that was developed with the use of the mushrooms. Now I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in with that Pinot Grigio and look at this. So what you can imagine is, oh man, the smell. I wish you could smell this.
That peachy flavor.
Oh my God, it smells incredible. So what's happening right now is, first of all, our rice is getting drunk. Our rice is drinking up all of that incredible California sunshine.
Oh, yeah. Look at that color too coming up.
And you see that color? That's exactly it. So that's from the mushrooms. That's from the onions. And I'm literally going to continue to do this until it's almost dry. Now, there's not going to be any alcohol value, no alcohol content. But you know what we will have? We'll have all that incredible flavor development that comes from the grapes. Now look at that immediately.
Oh, it's so good.
This is the difference. Do you see how that's creamy? You see that creaminess there? That's what you get when you have risotto. So this is one of the most important things. Instead of a straight up measurement, with risotto, you literally ladle in a ladle at a time. So literally like this, and you're just gonna literally give it a little stir.
That's chicken stock,
Chicken stock.
Chicken stock, yeah.
Now imagine if I used a cold chicken stock, what would happen?
It would cool that pan down immediately.
Exactly, so that's gonna prevent the cooking. And literally I'm just gonna ladle a few of these in. But the key is, you're gonna want to cook this until it's just, has a little bit of bite. You know, the Italians call it al dente, but it's just that little bit of tooth on the tooth. You don't want this to be soft and mushy. This will turn into a puree on you. I'm going to turn down the heat. We can just go over low heat. I don't want to cover this up because I want this to, some of the water to escape, and I'm concentrating flavors here.
And so this here, we got a few examples here. This is a white wine. There's not much reason for a white wine to breathe, so it can go into a taller, skinnier glass. And this is stemless as opposed to stemmed glass. Look at that. Beautiful color.
And on the nose, the one thing you'll notice with whites is on the nose, it's very, you mentioned peach. It's very mineral, but what you'll find is that its flavor doesn't always match the nose. Really good.
That's really good. That's not even completely chilled.
And it's not chilled. So temperature is important with white wine as well. But what you'll always want to do when you're evaluating the wine is, first of all, the nose. So what does it smell like? And then what does it taste like? And that'll be a clear indicator for you what kind of food it'll go with. That's a beautiful choice, that Pinot Grigio.
And then we're going to touch on this Merlot here. So I'll pour a glass of this Merlot, and I'll show you the difference just in color between the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot here. So we're just going to pour a glass here. And the reason that red wine glasses have this big open body is that wine needs to breathe. So I'll show you here. This is an example of a decanter. So if you have a big group of people coming over, you're going to want to decant your wine. So pour a whole bottle into this decanter, and it allows that wine to breathe and allows it to aerate and come to life. All of those flavors will actually start to mellow a little bit out of the bottle. If you pour it right into a glass and drink it right away, you might find it a little harsh, right?
Yeah, you do. And you know, one of the things, so this Merlot that you poured, one of the things you notice right off is that compared to a Cabernet Sauvignon, it has almost a ruby red color.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's very transparent. You can actually see through this, especially held up to light. You can really see through that. Now, when Dakota pours that Cabernet Sauvignon, that's going to be almost black. You're not going to be able to see through it.
So I'll show you here. It's a simple technique. This little rib that's actually on the top of a bottle here, that's where you want to run that knife right across that and then twist that off, and it creates a really nice presentation on the bottle. You're not taking that entire foil off. Just toss this out here. And you want to take your corkscrew and you want to place it like this.
I'm just going to, one quick side note on the risotto.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure to season it. Now, my stock, the chicken stock or vegetable stocks, it's important to have no salt added. If you think about something that's perfectly seasoned, like a stock that's got salt in it, and then you concentrate it by reduction, what's going to happen? It's going to be super salty. So you have to be very careful. Exactly. So I'm adding the seasoning. Now, with grains, it's important to season right at the beginning or at least in the middle. Otherwise, it's not going to take the seasoning in and you won't get that really nice, beautiful flavor.
So see, once again, no pop, just a little kiss. Taking that off. And you can already see the color on that cork, how dark that Cabernet Sauvignon is. So we're going to pour this into a stemmed glass. This is a Bordeaux red wine glass. And already look at the dark, almost black color of that Cabernet Sauvignon. And so the difference between this is a crystal glass as opposed to glass. And the difference is that crystal is actually corrugated. You know, you've seen corrugated cardboard. Crystal is corrugated. So what happens is you'll see people, they swirl the glass, and what it's doing is actually aerating that wine. As it runs over that corrugation in the crystal, it's aerating it.
Think about it like water in a babbling brook. Going over those rocks, it's creating an aerosol. It's creating part of enjoying the wine, especially when you're pairing it, is to be able to enjoy its fragrance and enjoy its taste. And so one of the things about decanting is when you get into aged wines, decanting is really important. Most of these fresh California wines, they don't need much. Put them in a glass, give them a swirl, and they're ready to go.
And so what happens is you smell this Cabernet Sauvignon right off the bat, and you get a really strong oak flavor out of that, eh?
Oh yeah, there's no question.
The smell out of that is pure oak.
So the difference is, of course, with the white is aged in stainless. It's literally, and that's where that mineral, that kind of real fresh brightness comes from. But it's that oak, that French oak in most cases, that gives it the bold. You get like all kinds of vanilla, and you get all kinds of really powerful.
Yeah, the finish on it is vanilla for sure. And then those strong tannins, which gives you that dry feeling in your mouth. That's a nice wine. And so all of these wines here are California wines. California is a great place to buy wine out of. You can buy wine, but why not support local wineries if you can out of the US, or here in Canada we try and support Canadian, or even if you want to go to your provincial area, Ontario wines for us. How's that coming along?
Good. So this is almost finished. We've got a little bit of reduction time here. You can see that beautiful creaminess developing. I think what we want to do is we want to head out.
You want to check on that barbecue?
I want to do that. Now, one of the great things about using cast iron, I can actually turn this off. I'm going to add the mushrooms back in. Look at these beauties. Oh my gosh. This is my favorite part of cooking, is the finish. Literally, I'm just going to, look at that. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Doesn't that look good?
That looks good, man.
Oh man. Okay, so now I'm just going to leave that, and the residual heat is going to allow it to continue to cook. So a little bit of that liquid. Beautiful. You can see, oh man, it smells so good already. And I'm going to take these, and we'll go out. Let's have I think I'm going to grab a little bit of red wine, and let's head out to the barbecue. So, as we said earlier, one of the most important things is to start it ahead of time. There's Ozzy. How you doing, Oz? Oh, man. And there's Seiko. How's it going, boy? Yeah, we got Grouse. Hey, 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 hey. So now, one of the things we want to do here, Dakota touched on it before we started, is we want to make sure to just have a real quick smoke. So what he's doing, have a look at that fire in there. So this is, let's have a quick look at this. This is a beautiful Coyote outdoor. So this Coyote Asado smoker allows us to use both a lump charcoal and, you know, like we've been using hardwood in it.
Charcoal, yep.
But this is a true chef's tool. This is something that will do great work. It'll make short work, actually, because the way it holds the heat, the way that it allows to control the temperature.
Just check this out. Look at this. Look at this firestone here. That just holds so much heat alone. So we're going to take dry chips, and that's going to go directly on. That's going to immediately start to smoke. Oh, and the smell, that's apple wood. So we're apple wood smoke, Grouse.
We got a little flame going in there.
We got flame going.
It's a hot fire.
Oh yeah, she's going hot.
Take a look at these. Look at those bad boys. Got that white wine in there.
So we're literally, now one of the important things that we've got here with the Coyote is that deflector.
Yeah.
So I've got open flame underneath, but that deflector stone, which is made essentially out of a pizza stone, that's going to allow me to be able to cook in no time. Let's close that up.
Yep.
And you want to know what? I'm going to grab a little bit of oil. We're going to season that grill. But what we're going to do here, look at the smoke.
Man,
We got
smell
smoke
that
rolling.
apple wood. Oh yeah.
We're going to have a nice quick smoke.
Boom.
And so literally just a little bit of oil here. And I just want to season this. Now these are going to be delicate. So I want to make sure every time, even though these are stainless, these are beautiful grills that last a lifetime. But what I want to make sure I do is just get a nice coating on there every time.
I want those to stick.
A nice layer. There we go. And then I'm going to lay these on. We're just going to need a little bit of salt and pepper there, buddy.
Okay.
So I'm going to go presentation side down. Good. Just going to put these on. Now,
A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. If you can, fresh ground black pepper is so much better than just already ground pepper. You activate the oils in that black pepper when you grind them.
so now what we're going to do, we're going to get that closed up. And we're going to set, I'm going to turn this, we'll just actually open that up a little bit. That's going to, I think we want to, yeah, we want to, otherwise we'll have a cloud of smoke in there. Okay. So now let's go back inside. Parmesan, that firm Parmesan. Mix it creamy and rich. You've got this beautiful grouse. And then what we've got, we just slice these open. So you've got figs. So figs are sweet.
These are California figs too.
They are. They're slightly sweet and savory. So what I'm going to do is we've got a little bit of heat. We've got this beautiful risotto. And what we're going to do is we're going to sweeten the whole deal up by adding just a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of this. Just give me a crack at a little bit of that. Just a spot of it. Yep. Awesome. So again, hot pan. What I'm going to do with the figs, I'm going to leave those stems on. I'm going to tuck those in just like this. Just like this. A little bit of butter. Just like that. Oh my gosh.
I would have never have thought about adding figs to this, but that's going to be a really nice combination.
Well, and what I'm going to do, and the key is to just get them heated up. This is a little bit of clover honey. So we're going to give a little bit of a drizzle there. Okay? And we're just going to bring those to life. Now, one of the things that's going to happen immediately by sauteing the figs is we're going to bring up some really great sweetness. It's going to be like if you've had creme brulee or creme caramel. It's going to be almost, it's like going to be a caramel, almost like that slightly burnt kind of.
They have so much sugar in them. The
Oh,
sugar,
a
as
ton
soon
of
as you
sugar.
start to heat them up, the sugar in the figs just starts to seep out and it starts to caramelize on the bottom. I'm sure not yet, but you'll see on the bottom the actual natural sugars of the figs start to caramelize.
The reason we also chose to use smoke in this case is because we can't throw a ton of heat on these for a long period of time. So let's take these back inside. Those look just beautiful. And I'm just going to slice these just on a little bit of an angle, just like this. You know, I've been trying to decide, you know, Dakota, and Bailey, whether to put this on top. Look at that beautiful texture and that beautiful color.
My mouth is just watering.
Honestly, that just looks gorgeous. So just take, and again, that just a little bit of a slice there. That flesh is so thin and so delicate, but you can see how beautifully white that texture is. Really important not to overcook it at this point.
Look at that, eh?
So I think what we'll do with this now is let's hit that with Parmesan on top.
Okay.
There you go. And then we'll see how these beautiful figs finish.
You see this little tool that we're using, guys? It's called a microplane. It's a very, very, very fine zester, and it works really nice for things like lemons, oranges, Parmesan. Oh yeah, look at those figs.
So you can see the figs are nicely caramelized. I think we'll just literally, honestly, I think they're going to be so good. So this little bit of sweetness is going to be a beautiful fit for the grouse. This is a great way, you know, wild to table is a very special thing.
Man.
It's a special thing because, you know, we were able to, first of all, locate these birds. We were able to hunt these birds.
You know what I love with wild to table? What I love with wild to table is that every single time you go to, so this is a grouse that we killed about a year ago.
Almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago. And so every time we go into the freezer and we pull out something that we took from the wild, the stories come rushing back, the memories come rushing back. So every single time, whoever you're on the hunt with, those memories come back, and that's what, you know, if you get your meat from the grocery store, all you remember is walking down the meat aisle, grabbing it out of the cooler and putting it in your cart, right?
Yeah. And I thought, you know, to be honest, I thought the whole, I've heard, you know, before, now keep in mind we're new hunters, so we're, you know, a couple years now. So I always heard hunters talking about getting their meat, and I was like, how much can you possibly take? And then I'm like, okay, hold on. Moose, you know, 600, 700 pounds
of meat.
Between the six of us, the 3 guys and 3 gals, you know, we're gonna have that's 6 whitetail,
700 pounds of whitetail meat from all of our family,
and for Canada goose and duck, based on my shot getting better, we're gonna have a lot more also in the freezer.
This is the first
unreal.
First time I'm having grouse.
Well, I'm gonna try it with. I'm gonna try. So here, let's do a little bit of this wine pairing in live fashion.
Oh my god. I gotta have one of the figs too. That tastes just like chicken. Yeah, literally tastes like chicken.
So I call it the chicken of the woods. So now let's just do this. We have a few more minutes. Let's just talk about that. So let's talk about pairing this. So you got beautiful flavor for sure. The Pinot goes with the
risotto.
No question.
Yep. And the
but
figs. Yep.
Now I was expecting for that grouse to be just slightly more gamey.
Well, it's just stronger in general, because actually I was really surprised when we harvested these grouse. The meat color was it was like it was red, eh? It was like just red.